Good evening, teachers. I hope all is well. I hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. So as we gear up to return to school tomorrow, I wanted to provide you with a roadmap to EOCs and NCFEs. And so as you know, all semester long, we have been very intentional in our PLCs. We PLC twice a week. We focus on data once a week. We focus on planning the next week, all under the assumption that we want to create more rigorous lesson planning. We want to create more opportunities of collaboration within our departments. And so as I have been reviewing your PLC minutes, a lot of you have done a tremendous job with that. And so having said that, you know that as of tomorrow, we have approximately 3 weeks before we're out for Christmas. And in that time, you know that a lot of testing has to happen. So I wanted to provide you almost with like a roadmap or almost like a how-to instructional video, just to kind of help you kind of navigate through these next few weeks. And so one thing that I think that's important that you begin to do, and I know that some of you have already done it, is begin to take a deep dive into your data. And when I say take a deep dive in your data, you've heard me say that before this semester, but that means I really want you to be very intentional about your classroom data. And so obviously we've recently taken benchmarks, which might be your most recent data, is to look into your benchmark data and really begin to take a deep dive into your data. And so you may say, okay, so once I get my deep dive data, like what exactly am I looking for? And so at this point, as you begin to close out your curriculum, some of you have already finished teaching your curriculum, as you begin remediation centered around your curriculum. One thing that you want to do right now, and this is just one process, you don't have to follow it to a T, but for those of you that may not be certain about where to go from here, this is what I want to provide for you. But now is a good time for you to begin to look across all of your standards, across your entire curriculum, and begin to identify the highest standards and the lowest standards. And so when I say highest and lowest, I mean look at your benchmark data, look at your CFA data, look at your teacher-made exam data, look at your exit ticket data, and really begin to identify the highest standards that the students have mastered, and also look at the lowest standards that they haven't mastered. And so in this deep data dive, you want to find your highest standards and you want to find your lowest standards. And the reason why you want to do that is because you really want to find out exactly what do my kids absolutely know at this point, and what standards do they struggle with right now. And so that gives you a clear roadmap in terms of how to drive your remediation. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to remediate everything you've taught, which is not a bad idea, but with time constraints, you don't want to have to go back through everything you taught when your kids have illustrated on their assessments that they understand a large chunk of this. So what you really want to be is you really want to be intentional at this point. If your students have pretty much mastered a certain standard or mastered a certain series of standards, and then it's okay to touch on those, but you really want to drive home those standards that the students have not mastered. And so identify your high standards, identify your low standards, and then in between we want to identify what we call our priority standards, or sometimes we call our test specs, and that's just kind of short. That's just abbreviated for test specifications. And so at the end of this video, I'm going to provide you with some links to where you can go into the DPI website. You can pull your entire curriculum. You can click on your unpacking documents. So as you're identifying those areas that you feel like you need to reteach, a good way to reteach those is by using the unpacking documents that are provided to us by the DPI, which will show you specifically how to go in and break down your standards, and will show you what to prioritize and what not to prioritize. And so of course, not only that, that gives you an opportunity to really use the economy of language that the state is using, so when the kids begin to take the exam, that they've heard this common language. I'd also encourage you to go in and make sure that you print out and access the release items that the state has provided. Again, sometimes you may see duplicate test questions on the actual exam, but if not, sometimes you just see similar questions that are worded the same way, using the same economy of language, which opens up a door for a kid to retain the information. And so again, we're going to deep dive into our data. We're going to look at our benchmark data, CFA data, teacher-made exam data. We're going to look at our high standards, and we're going to look at our low standards and kind of see what the kids know and what the kids don't know. And then we're going to mix in our test specifications standards in. And those are basically standards where the state literally tells you what percentage of the test the kids are going to have to know. So that might be a good idea, because here's the deal. If my students have not mastered like standard 7.0, and the state, based on the test specs, say that 7.0 won't even be tested, Again, for general knowledge is good, but don't spend a lot of time remediating something that the kids are not going to be tested on just for the sake of saving time. And so again, look at your test specs, look at your unpacking documents. Also, there's a crosswalk document that you're going to be able to access on the DPI website. And the crosswalk document is if you're teaching anything like math, some of the standards were kind of were changed a little bit. You'll be able to kind of look at the old standards from like 2010, and you'll be able to compare them to the standards from 2019 and kind of see like where the loopholes are. And so that's called the crosswalk document. And so again, look at your data, look at your high standards, your low standards, look at your priority standards or your test spec standards to find out specifically what you need to be teaching, and then dive into this remediation these last couple weeks and demand excellence from your students. Teach like a champion technique 100%, demand 100% collaboration and cooperation from your students, and really make sure that we go into exams, really go into the exam season for the fall, really prepared and really motivated. Listen, as we've said early in the year, we have missed being a C school by 1 point for the last 2 consecutive years. This is our year to break through and to really crack into that C. And we're not satisfied with being a C school when we get there. But again, look, minimal progress is better than no progress at all. So again, I just wanted to give you a roadmap to your EOCs, a roadmap to your NCFEs, just to give you a general idea of what to do with your data, how to allow data to drive your instruction and your remediation for these next couple of weeks in your class. Okay. So anyway, having said all that, hope all is well. If I can be of any assistance to you in terms of instruction or in terms of just ironing out this roadmap, please let me know, and I will see a lot of you in your PLCs this week. Take care. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow.